You're on what? You're on crack, smack, PCP, whatever's in Chasen's purse.
I'm on your bullshit.
I still love the tweet from January 6th. I love January 6th, by the way. I thought it was very funny. We're so going to get demonetized. But I love the tweet from January 6th where it was, and I just had it just about every episode about the in your husband office playing in his wigs. Playing in his wigs.
The 3 people who listen to this have heard that at
Colin
least
just
5
punched
times.
a wall. I don't know any other people who watch this. Not even watch, listen. But yes, we're recording on an other night than we normally do, so we're probably going to be a little bit zanier than usual. And there's a pizza getting cold, so, hurry the fuck up. Pizza's one of those few things.
Zany.
Zany? I don't know.
We haven't been zany in a while.
I forgot what it was. I forgot what the emotion felt like. So you sent me podcast topics, and all I see is it says hate crime. And I'm like, I know I am, but what are you?
Yeah, the first one is about hate crimes because there's an article that the FBI is reporting a large increase or a large surge in hate crimes against queer people. And I wanted to talk about this because this makes good headlines, right? But is it the truth?
Is it?
I mean, anyone who knows mathematics or statistics knows that you can skew things a certain way.
What's the database off of?
So this is my question. I was trying to do a little bit of digging. So I do want to specify that the Justice Department... They use statistics about hate crimes based off of it was an acronym, and I thought I was going to remember it, but I don't. The Bureau of Statistics and blah, blah, blah. Some bullshit like that.
That's convenient.
Right. So the Justice Department uses their statistics about hate crimes based off of some statistics that someone else gathers, but those statistics are based off of surveys.
So that doesn't count. These aren't actual crime reports?
No, yeah. They're based off of surveys of people saying, yes, a hate crime was committed against me. So if the Justice Department is using really false statistics, I was about to say, should I say false? Yeah, false statistics, or at least questionable statistics, to report, whatever they report, to gain funding or whatever, or to make conservatives look bad, whatever the modus operandi is that day. They're literally taking the victim cycle and just perpetuating it over again, right? Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, someone feels like they were a victim, says to a survey, yes, I was a victim of a hate crime.
I pressed the victim button on the survey.
Then the Justice Department says, oh, look, hate crimes are up.
More victims.
And then they say, oh, look, my inter-identity choice here is as a victim. And so ergo, they go out and have, someone slight them. Oh, look, I was hate crimed again. And the cycle continues.
What I don't understand is that this makes the Justice Department, I don't know if they understand this, makes them look stupid. Because it's like, don't you have all these task forces now? Like, don't you have the Intersex Task Force? Like, what are you doing with all this money? There should be less alleged hate crimes because you're supposed to be on the case now.
But they don't look stupid because no one knows this, right?
That's true, because people just say, oh, hate crimes are up. It's really bad.
So those listening to this, please go, inform people.
By the way, I'd like to report a hate crime. And I think that this is probably the
greatest... What did I do this time?
You put out the wrong starters. I think that the biggest hate crime against gay people in America in 2023 is the rampant theft of phones and wallets in West Hollywood on Friday and Saturday nights. I think that is the most likely time that you're to be a victim. And I think that they target gays specifically because they know that gays are just dancing and drunk and will don't mind getting a field copped and then their phone's gone. And the talk about, like, WeHo is finally finding that gangs of people go into these bars now, which is why Mickey's photographs you every time, which I would love to see the photograph wall of every photograph of us going into Mickey's, because you can just tell the good nights and you can tell the bad ones. But, yeah, I think that's the real hate crime, and no one wants to talk about that. They don't target straights, by the way. There's not a bunch of phone thieves at Academy, which is down the street in a worse neighborhood. But they target them in West Hollywood. Highest property crime rate of just about any agglomeration, I think, in the West Coast.
Well, I do want to circle back to West Hollywood because I have that as another topic. But
God help us.
This particular article that I am referencing from The Advocate, they cite FBI reports. And so apparently FBI reports do take hate crime statistics from actual police reports.
And what did the FBI say?
But the legal definition of a hate crime is, I'll let you venture a guess. What do you think it means? I'm going to say,
I believe that the legal definition of the hate crime is that the perpetrator's motive is clearly understood, that they're committing this crime against this person because of this person's identity.
Right.
It's, I robbed him because he was gay, or I hit him because he was gay, or I, ran him over with a car because he was gay.
So the legal standard of proof for that is obviously very high.
You gotta be screaming faggot when you stab somebody if it's a hate crime.
Right. So if the legal definition and the legal standard to prove such a thing is very high, then why is it that the FBI defines a hate crime as a violent action motivated in whole or in part by an offender's bias?
In part's a little weird, because I think that's a lot harder to prove.
And it's also very vague.
By the way, neither of these standards, Matthew Shepard doesn't qualify for either of these standards. That was a drug deal. That was not a hate crime.
Right.
No one wants to talk about that, but it's true.
Right. And they've written...
He's buried in the National Cathedral because of it.
Oh, jeez.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
That's insane. This country is literally insane. They buried a drug dealer in the National Cathedral because he got taken out during a deal with an ex.
But I would like someone to explain to me what the in part means. Because theoretically, you can come up with various scenarios where someone is angry at someone else, and, you stole something from me, and you happen to be gay, and so I'm going after... you know what I'm going with this. Like,
it's like
the in part is really problematic to me, and this is where I think, because I've heard the conservative talking point of, well, hate crimes have gone up because they've relaxed the definition of hate crime. Yeah. And I think that's what they're talking about.
I don't think in part was part of the original definition.
Well, it's not part of the legal definition because, as you said...
You have to prove.
You have to prove in a court of law this. So, on a crime report to the FBI, that's something that hasn't been proved in a court of law yet, right?
Right.
So the real hate crime statistics should be taken of things that have been prosecuted and convicted.
Right. So if you shoot someone for coming into your store and robbing it, and then you get manslaughter or whatever, and then they have to argue that. But if you shoot someone of an opposite race or orientation or whatever for robbing your store, does then that fall under some kind of hate crime legal definition? I don't know. It sounds like it might. That's why I think that's very dangerous. I think that people's idea of a hate crime starting at like, okay, someone got lynched because of their race, has now been watered down to someone said something to me that I didn't like. That's where we're at now.
Yeah. And again, as I said before, it's a cycle of victimhood, right?
Right.
And it causes even more of this shit to happen.
Right.
Over and over again.
Next. Do you have a segue?
Well, because you brought up West Hollywood, I'll go to that.
Yeah.
So, a little bit of, I guess, fun news.
Oh, God.
Someone is moving into the pump location.
Who?
Roosterfish, excuse me.
What the fuck? What's Roosterfish?
I don't know.
Is it a bar?
So, I don't know. Roosterfish Restaurant and Bar, which has taken over Lisa Vanderpump's Pump restaurant location, promises to elevate the bar experience and bring differently themed nights to the new venue, which is currently being remodeled. So that last part really pisses me off.
Why would you remodel
place
that?
is a gorgeous place. Gorgeous
You have like
place.
an olive tree grove, and if they take those olive trees out, I'm.
And she paid so much money.
Yeah, each of those trees are probably $100,000.
And if I were her, and
I'd be pissed.
Oh, I would be so upset. I mean, I'm sure she took as much as she could with her.
Right.
Maybe.
If I was her, I would dig out those trees and ship them to fucking Vegas. I don't care.
Yeah, she probably took stuff, shipped it to Vegas, put it in Sur, down the street.
What the hell is a roosterfish, though? Are there other roosterfish?
I don't know.
Let me look it up.
But this is part of a...
Is it a chain?
They don't make it sound like it's a chain. But this is part of a... It's part of an article talking about somewhere else that's opening. So St. Felix...
Yeah.
Has been empty for quite a while.
What? It's gone?
St. Felix has been gone for a while.
What? I love that place. St. Felix was like the best place there. I used to go there during...
St. Felix WeHo closed the first week of September.
Okay, well, I haven't been there in September.
Oh, wait a minute. I thought it was... Sorry. I thought it was September of last year.
No, it was there. We walked by it. I waved at the bartender.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay, St. Felix used to... Okay, I think that there was one in Hollywood, too, but that was the original. And St. Felix used to be kind of this classy, almost kind of like a British pub vibe place, but very whimsical. And it was fun to just sit there and people watch. I'd bring my iPad and actually work there and get, sliders and stuff like that. And it was the only place I can think of that had both good drinks and good food.
So
and
they
in a great
said,
location.
Yeah, they said about... St. Felix said about itself... They came with a vision to bring an East Coast style and feel, coupled with Midwestern customer service and value in a highly stylized LA setting.
Yeah, they did a good job.
It strove to be a bridge between the cool musicians hitting the Troubadour and Whiskey A Go Go and the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, but the past couple years it was not busy. You used to have there. I remember the days not long ago. It was, I think, around the time probably you visited. There'd be a 45-minute wait at that place. Now, just I walked by a couple times. There was like one person sitting at the bar, and I'm like, that's never a good sign. That block is cursed, though.
Well, the new place that's moving in is called The Wild. So it's the name of a new restaurant.
Not a themed place.
And according to rumors, The Wild is co-owned by Adam Lambert and Roger Taylor, the drummer of the band Queen. Both men have neither confirmed nor denied the rumors that they are opening.
I can never go in there now because I accidentally called Adam Lambert fat.
Well, but
he's going to ban me from this place.
Alcoholic Beverage Control lists some company as the primary owner of the liquor license.
Probably some LLC.
Yeah.
But, so that's our WeHo update. Should we spin that off and make a separate podcast?
No.
Could we have our own WeHo Times podcast? But yeah, so next topic.
Oh, sorry.
We're whipping him out.
Okay, something a little bit before we hit the political shit. I thought this was hilarious. Wheel of Fortune fans were outraged after Pat Sajak accepts wrong answer.
He's like 80.
And he's also retiring and doesn't give a fuck
He doesn't
anymore.
give a fuck anymore.
But apparently, there's a crossword clue type of puzzle.
Yeah.
Where they're very, very strict about you have to say everything correctly. So apparently the puzzle said nut, and they said nuts as their answer.
Yeah.
And so technically that should be considered incorrect.
And he's like, it's a fine.
And and apparently he said fine.
He's so phoning it in now. He doesn't give a fuck.
However, I understand the outrage, maybe not by fans, But by other contestants, because other contestants have had a slip of the tongue and been told, "I'm sorry, you can't win your $10,000 because you had a slip of the tongue." But this bitch gets a pass. Like, that's not
Maybe
fair.
she showed him her tits. I don't know. I love Pat Sajak. He used to have a great Twitter. He's conservative. You can tell that he and Vanna probably used to really party back in the day.
They hate each other now.
No,
I can tell they hate each other.
Wait, really?
You just watched that show and Vanna's like sick of his shit.
Well,
sort of like me and you.
I heard that they get along very well, but she's pissed because after he's leaving, she asked for a raise and they were like, no.
Really?
Yeah. So she's just like, I guess she's still stuck in a contract, so she's literally just phoning. Then she goes up instead of tapping those letters, she just slaps the fucking letter in the wall. Like, she doesn't care anymore.
Hoping her hand breaks through. Oh, look, I need workers' comp now. I got glass in my wrist.
Arm, I can't do this.
Anyway, I thought that was a fun little aside.
It's great. Right, the real shit.
Vandersloot.
Yes, I read this right before you got here.
He confessed to killing her like
Natalie Holloway.
A decade plus after the fact.
Almost two, because this was like 2005 or 2006.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I read it was like 12 or 13 years, so it's been like 18.
No, this was because I remember watching Fox back in the day, and it was...
I remember watching Headline News and Nancy Grace. Vandersloot is guilty as hell.
So there was that, and then I would be on Fox because it was O'Reilly, Hannity and Combs.
Right.
That's how long ago this was. And then with that hook nose, Greta Van Susteren coming in. My dad would always, whenever we saw her, my dad would always be like, there she is with that crooked mouth, and she just talks out of one corner of her mouth.
My dad called her stroke face. I mean, I thought that was in poor taste, but it's accurate.
But my dad used to always go, she talks like this. And the missing case of Natalie Holloway and Aruba. She has been so fucking vindicated. Over everything, because I remember...
Nancy Grace is always right.
Nancy Grace, yeah,
she's always right.
She's always right. Because she's a prosecutor, as she'll tell you. But Greta was on this case, had Beth Holloway on that poor show every fucking night. Poor Beth Holloway, her daughter's missing, and she's just going on that show, please, someone say something. And everyone knew that this guy with this, with his Mr. Peanut head was guilty. Everyone knew. Because the story shifted 4 times, and then there was the dad involved, who I think has since died, who basically helped, bury the body, I guess. And it was like, okay, you're the last person seen with her. Like, this is a peaceful island. This doesn't happen very often. He's like, yeah, I don't know what happened. I just left her by the beach. Yeah, that doesn't... I'm sorry. Young people who meet and go to a party, he doesn't just leave the girl by the beach, no matter what the situation is. Like, it was so fucked up. Well, it turns out he really did leave her by the beach, dead. And so... all anybody wanted was just for, him to confess. And then finally he's in jail in Peru because he killed another woman that he met some random night. And so people were like, okay, you're guilty, right? And now I think a judge finally, found out.
I think he struck a deal or something.
Yeah, basically. He confessed, okay, I finally did it. By the way, shouldn't have waited this long. If he would have confessed, he probably would have been out by now.
You think so?
Oh, I think so. I think you could have made some case out of that.
Well, yeah, if it's been pushing 20 years.
Instead, now he's basically going to, be in for the rest of his life. But a little fun fact about this story. So, Beth Holloway, which is Natalie Holloway's mom, I think was a single mom at the time. Her parents had been divorced. For a brief time, was very close to John Benet Ramsey's father. And they, I think, pitched a show where they went out and, solve crimes or something like that together as, the parents of missing children.
That's sick.
His attorney and PR guy at the time, John Ramsey, was Lynn Wood. So there's your Mad Libs of the day. And it goes to show that there's 20 celebrities and they just shift around and move places depending on the situation.
Well, I was going to ask, how long do you think before, we get an HBO miniseries on this? I mean, now that it's basically solved, how long before we get an HBO miniseries on it?
And I really... it's going to be like Sydney Sweeney as Natalie Holloway. And they're just going to call it Aruba. I'm here
Instead of the staircase. No, the cinder block, because apparently that's what he used to smash her face in.
I don't
No, but I have a feeling.
But Greta, by the way, Greta is always right. Greta was right about Fox News lowering their standards. Greta was right about them pushing a line. Greta was right to leave when she did, and she said nice things about Roger Ailes. But she's like, there's a lot of people at that network that are shitty. She was right about Fox, and she was right about this. Greta is right about everything. She's right about everything.
Screw Greta. I love Nancy.
Well, that's because, like Nancy, you're deranged.
Okay, so now to some more political hard-hitting stuff. Because we talked about this on the last episode. Remember we talked about succession of, like...
Presidential line of succession.
Right.
Because we still don't have a speaker.
Right, and so this interim, secret speaker...
This faggot with the bow tie.
Because that has never been,
I cannot take an adult wearing a bow tie in a non-formal context seriously. I'm very sorry. I hated Tucker for years because he wore that stupid bow tie. But
his line in this presidential succession is not clear, and we discussed that last week.
Yeah.
So apparently, the headline is Biden quietly places unconfirmed labor secretary in presidential line of succession.
How?
Drawing criticism.
I don't think that the interim person enters the line of succession. I don't think they give him the book.
That's what this is saying, though. This is saying he's secretly and silently done this. So, Acting Secretary of Labor Julie Su...
Oh, yeah, that one woman that they will not confirm.
Whose nomination to the role was never confirmed.
She's been in there for like a year and a half.
Biden has... the Biden administration has selected to put her in the presidential line of succession.
You can just do that?
I guess so. So, Senator Katie Britt from Alabama put a letter out on Tuesday, yesterday. Sorry, well, I'm dating us now, sorry. And 29 other Republican senators signed the letter as well, expressing grave concerns and requested clarification for the decision. So, quote, they wanted clarification on her eligibility to assume the office of President of the United States pursuant to the presidential line of succession as established by Congress in the Presidential Succession Act of 1947.
Who would have guessed? I mean, come on. I think that this is stupid. You have how many cabinet secretaries? 23? Something like that? Like all the way to Homeland Security? You don't need this person in there.
And... apparently, she's listed as 9th in order of succession. So, if you have
Secretary of Labor is one of the oldest departments. It goes by age, so it's like Treasury, and then Attorney General, then Treasury, then it goes on from there. State.
So apparently the letter also says, I like this quote. Quote, while you and your administration have clearly decided to ignore congressional intent in keeping Ms. Su in place in her current role, it would be unfortunate if you have decided to further discount congressional intent and violate the law by taking the position that Ms. Su is eligible for placement in the presidential line of succession.
I think if 8 people who were in the presidential line of succession disappeared, just, like they were raptured overnight or something like that, I think that this would be the least of our problems. That some random Asian lady becomes president.
True.
Who can't be confirmed.
But it's something kind of shady that should never have been allowed.
I think that they did it just so that they could give her additional legitimacy. I really do, because they basically said that this woman has the job and she hasn't been confirmed. They're like, well, she's just going to do the fucking job anyway. His role, he's going to be out of office in a few months anyway. Move it along. They don't care.
So, shall we turn to last few things here?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess speaker update. We still have no speaker.
What update? Now they're saying Jim Jordan doesn't have the votes.
Right, but Scalise has backed down.
Did Scalise step down?
Yes.
Okay, so
he
Scalise
said
is down.
Removed his name from the running.
So now it's Jim Jordan and I don't know, Big Bird. I don't know who's left at this point. But Jim Jordan is not. It doesn't look like he has the votes. Because apparently in each round he's getting less and less and less. And he has less than McCarthy even when it's close. There's a very strong possibility now that we will just end up with a Democrat Speaker of the House. That Hakeem Jeffries guy, who's Nancy Pelosi's successor. Which I think is fucking hilarious. Because it goes to show that congressional Republicans are so unserious. And it would really make Gates look bad if he went through all this trouble of removing McCarthy and then you end up with a Democratic Speaker of the House.
I'm baffled
Beside yourself.
and pissed. Because we'll be talking again.
Maybe
I don't
Julie
want to
Sue
report.
should be secretary. Should be Speaker of the House.
I don't want to repeat myself because I understand both sides of this. I understand it's not a good political game that they played, but they played it to their constituents.
What I don't understand is, like, I'm looking through this and I'm like, okay, you don't like Scalise, you don't like Jordan, fuck all the seniority and stuff like that. Pick your most liked member, whoever it is, from whatever state that can do the job, and just put them in there for a few months. Like, this is turning parliamentary at this point. This is like the UK when they had like 3 prime ministers in 3 weeks around the time that the Queen died. Like, we're kind of getting into this ridiculousness of, like, there's confidence votes and everything, and nothing is getting done.
But I don't understand the Republicans who are not voting for him, their position.
Who else are you trying to get?
Well, because the Democrats have been claiming, oh, look, he's such a far left, a far right MAGA Republican, he's such an extremist. But they're acting like the speaker can just unilaterally make decisions
They can get committees together, but that's about the extent of their power.
Right.
They basically just roll call and whip votes.
You can make the point that he might, put together a committee that is going to speak to his base, which is actually good in my opinion. That might piss you off, but he can't just make legislation because I think was it Rashida Tlaib who tweeted something like, a vote for Jim Jordan is a vote for a national abortion ban. And I'm like, how? How is he going to unilaterally stand up in front of people and say,
I ban abortion now?
I mean, because it doesn't pass through Senate, doesn't get signed by president.
So I think...
Do they think that we're that stupid?
Yes.
Civics
Of course
wise?
they do. Of course her. I have an idea for who should be speaker. And I'm not going to say who you think I'm going to say. I think I know who could be the Speaker of the House, who would be effective at it, who has experience in the House.
I can't tell if this is going to be a joke or
no, this is
legitimate.
I'm serious. Has experience in the House, is a former member of Congress, is alive, so I'm not going to make the Feinstein joke, is seeking higher office, and would be effective. Speaker of the House, Ron DeSantis. It's the closest to president he's going to be. And I think that he has the capability to do it. He was a member of Congress for how long? He has personal relationships with most of these people. Some of these people have endorsed him. You know where he stands on a lot of these issues. He's not winning right now. And he can save himself a lot of humiliation in these caucuses if he just says, look, for the good of the country, I will step up. I know it doesn't say it has to be a member of Congress, but I was a member of Congress. I know how this process works. He can whip votes. You don't have to hear from him ever again. He just gets up there and bangs the gavel and sits behind the president during the State of the Union. And if you want to then leverage that into being president someday, great. Let Jeanette Nunez be governor of Florida, who's a lieutenant governor. And you have one of your acolytes as the lieutenant governor of Florida, or open it up for Gates to come over and take over in 2 years when you're done, or whenever his term is done. But I think that if he made for the good of the country, I want to do this, stop the fighting against Trump, stop this primary nonsense, clear the rest of these candidates out who are just kind of Tim Scott's DOA, as we've seen, his donors all pulled out.
Right.
And so it's
especially after that fight he had on the debate stage
for no
about
reason.
curtains.
Exactly. Be okay, if you want an anti-Trump option, vote for Nikki Haley for some fucking reason. But if he said I'm going to do this for the good of the country, I would support his move 100%. I think that would be a smart move for him. And I think that he would be able to stay in there for as long as this next term goes and maybe even be elected again afterwards. I think he could be very effective. So, I don't know.
I mean...
That's free advice for you, Ron DeSantis. You don't have to pay me to say bullshit about you.
It'll never happen.
You don't know that. I just willed it into existence. I spoke it into existence, and now I let
You've spoken a lot of things, and thank God they have not come into existence.
Well, I mean, we're still waiting.
I wanted to also bring up one last thing about this side of the world's politics before we get into the other side to wrap this up. Mm-hmm. Landry in my home state,
Louisiana. Yes, there's a Republican governor of Louisiana again.
which everyone assumes because Louisiana's a red state, it's going to have a Republican governor. It's very few and far between that we have Republican governors.
Which is very odd.
Not really when you break down the demographics of the people.
But no one would think Democratic senator from Louisiana or Democratic representative from Louisiana. Like, there's lots of famous Republicans. There's not many Democrats that come to note.
But on the state level, it's mostly Democrats.
That's so odd.
Because the old school Democrat mindset and machine is still very much in play.
Yeah. We went to that Capitol.
A lot of the voters in the state are registered as Democrats, but they'll vote nationally Republican, but statewide they'll vote Democrat because the Democrats are the moderates.
That's such an odd thing to think that a state would do that.
So John Bel Edwards, who was the previous Democrat governor,
was like an anti-abortion Democrat.
He was a moderate Democrat,
yeah.
So he won because he was moderate. You're not going to get a very progressive Democrat winning anything in Louisiana.
Yeah.
But the Democrat machine is still alive and well in the state, is my point. So the fact that Landry won is pretty big. And correct me if I'm wrong, did he win like outright? Because this was not a runoff.
Outright. I think he went outright because he crossed a certain percentage,
right.
And the other,
which never happens,
right? They said it happened in Huey Long,
but that was a long fucking time ago.
It was Huey Long and I think two other governors since. Whoever has been a popular Long, Jindal, and I think that's it. Not Jindal?
No, Jindal didn't. He had to go through a runoff.
Well, Jindal just endorsed Trump this week.
I cannot find, to save my life, if this guy is related to some of the other Landrys that came out.
Well, this guy was a state senator or some state level politician, so it wouldn't.
He was
surprise
attorney
me.
general.
Okay, so it wouldn't surprise me if he. It sounds like in Louisiana there's like 4 families and they all end up with some person, and kind of like New Mexico. You always lived in these very like clannish political environments where it's like, oh, that's the son of the aunt of the cousin of the person who was governor before.
But that's been how the whole country has worked for a long time until recently.
Not here, but in other places.
Well, yeah, I mean, like
here,
the country
there's a lot of
whole.
churn, but yeah.
Okay, sorry. Last thing, and we'll cut this off.
That's what the trans surgeon said.
International politics.
Yeah.
2 quick things.
Interdimensional child molesters.
You know, I put out a tweet a couple days ago because of what happened in Poland. Am I correct? Yes.
I don't know.
So some populist leader has won in Poland.
Oh.
And that was very shocking to a lot of people around the world, apparently.
Don't act shocked.
And it made me think, what is actually happening? We have a rush of populist leaders, you know, pre-2016, right? So you had the guy in England, what was his name with the bad hair?
Boris Johnson.
Yes. Which he ended up being a flop, but you understand,
but
like
the whole Brexit movement was a part of the populist.
He was a populist. We had we had a few other people in other European countries take office, and it was a big, massive wave, right? And then Trump took office, and it was like, wow, the world is changing.
Right.
Then, as quickly as they came, they were thrown out.
Yeah.
And they were replaced with the farthest left people you could ever imagine.
Right. Which is why everyone thought that Bernie Sanders would be president here, because they thought that would be the natural reaction of what would happen. That's the equivalent.
But now it's changing again.
Right.
Back to the populism. So my question is, fluctuation does not normally happen that fast, in my opinion. I'm not some scholar of history. I'm not going to pretend to be.
In late-stage empires, it does. You'd have the spendthrift king, and then you'd have the one that would just be so extravagant, and then go back and forth.
So are you saying this is predating our end times of the Western world?
I think it's late-stage democracy in some areas, and either it becomes direct democracy, which is bad, or it becomes some other thing, which is probably also bad. And the reason why I think it is because you keep seeing them bleating about democracy more and more and more. I've never heard democracy used as a word more than I have in the past couple of years. My entire life growing up, I think I maybe heard it like 10 times in school. And now it's inescapable. We're defending our democracy. We're this or that. The Republicans want to stop our democracy. They want us to be part of our democracy. It's every fucking thing. Their whole 2024 plan is not going to be economic recovery because there isn't one. It's not going to be, national security because it's bad. It's not going to be anything. They're going to say democracy, democracy, democracy. These people want to end democracy. That is their whole shtick.
Well, okay, so to be fair, maybe you are predicting the end of full democracies, right? So some of these European countries that are complete democracies or run as complete democracies.
I think that then you switch more to a republic style system in that point.
But that's what has made, I think, us last as long as we have, because we're not a democracy, and I hate when people say that.
And people want it to be, though, because I think that they think that in the democracy they have more power, which they actually don't. Direct democracies like India and stuff like that do not function.
Which is why, to their credit, the geniuses of the founding fathers, they were like, okay, this shit didn't work where we come from. Well, obviously they were leaving a monarchy, but you understand what I'm saying.
You want to see democracy in action?
This shit didn't work in the past, right?
But you want to see democracy in action? Place a food order for a group of 10 people. Or just figure out what restaurant you want to go to. 2 people are always going to be pissed off, and they're going to take it out on the people the next time going around. And everyone's going to end up eating something they don't want. That's how democracy works. Instead, with the republic, it's like, okay, you guys can make suggestions from what you would like to order for yourselves, but we're going to this one restaurant.
No, a republic would be we go to a food court and everyone gets what they want. No,
that's not a republic.
I know. I'm just kidding.
Anarchy.
I'm just kidding.
And there's no more anarchy than you'll find in a mall food court.
But yes, the idea that we are a republic whose again, I'm boiling this down very simplistically, whose elected leaders are voted on in a democratic fashion.
Yeah. Barely.
Again, as I said, for the most part. That's why we have survived, I think. So maybe, I don't know, maybe some of these democracies will crumble, but we'll see what happens. Last thing is the war, right? There's been some things that have happened recently, and that kind of pissed me off. Biden has apparently agreed to give money and I guess just money right now. I don't know if weapons or arms was a part of the deal to Palestine. So we're giving money to help Israel fight, and we're giving money to their opposition. Like, what point?
The problem is that that's all that we've ever done. Like, Hamas attacked with probably American-funded weapons, leftover Katyusha rockets from Russia. Like, this is what always happens in this situation.
But Biden put out some statement, or his administration, maybe not him, put out the statement that we will make sure that not a single dollar falls into Hamas's hands.
I'm fucking sure.
How do you do that?
We're going to give it to the people, but not the government that distributes the money to the people. That's like saying we're giving money to Cuba, but we're going to make sure the Castro is not going to get any of it. Yeah, bullshit.
And this was all in response to some alleged attack. Well, not alleged. The attack happened, but on the hospital.
Yeah.
And it's going back and forth of who actually did it. Last I heard, they were saying it was Palestine who accidentally, quote unquote, it was friendly fire.
Well, Katyusha rockets, people don't understand this, because I remember from the 2006 Israel-Hezbollah war, with Rick Leventhal covered that very well, a dear friend. Katyusha rockets are about as accurate as if I picked up a pool noodle and decided to throw it across the yard. They go way off course. Many of them explode in midair because they are left over from the 80s Soviet conflict. So these rockets are nearing like retirement age if they were a person by the time they were manufactured, and they're wildly inaccurate. But Hamas uses them because they're effective in the fact that if they do land on their intended target, they're pretty damaging and destructive. So it wouldn't surprise me if some of their armaments, which we probably inadvertently funded, then ended up blowing up in a hospital parking lot, hitting a car, and then just like killing like 500 people.
But it also wouldn't surprise me that it was done on purpose to then
Make
place
Israel look bad.
Yeah, to place a target on Israel, and because the Palestinians and Hamas are not blind to the fact that they're getting a lot of ridiculous support from some of these Western countries, like
Yeah.
these people here in America saying,
Those march, like the people who insurrected Congress today
right.
in solidarity with Gaza.
They see that happening around the world, and they're going, let's play on that sentiment that we're pro-Palestine sentiment that we're getting, and let's make Israel look really bad by attacking a hospital,
Right.
of all places. I honestly think it could have been on purpose.
It's possible. I mean, they've been known to just basically hide.
They don't give a shit.
Yeah, they hide guns in daycares and shit like that. They know
Right.
they always know what they're doing, and that's part of the process. And then I also think that there is the argument to be made of like, look, when you declare all out war and you just start bombing music festivals and stuff like that, something could happen back at you. That's just how it works. I don't think that people really understand the severity of the situation leading into this. And the fact that if you're on the Israeli side of the border, how peaceful it is. If you're on the other side of the border, how it's not. And how, because of Hamas and the Palestinian Authority rejecting every peace plan that they've agreed to, I think at this point you just move them into the Sinai. I think that Egypt just has to create a home for the Palestinians at this point. I really don't see how this two-state solution... I don't think that there's ever going to be a two-state solution now.
No.
Not after this shit. This is another generation of conflict. So either stretch Israel to the sea and put them in Egypt, or put them in Saudi Arabia, put them somewhere. Put them in Dubai. Put all the Palestinians in Dubai and all these
No,
empty...
I want to go visit there.
No, like, you have all those palm tree islands and, like, all the cool little things there, and there's, like, apparently only, like, 7 people that live in Dubai, and 6 of them are migrant workers, and one of them's a tourist. Like, put them in all these towers in Dubai. They can all sit there in the pool. They can all have a wonderful, fabulous time in the desert and go shopping. Give them all the money, and then use it better there, and then just give Israel to the Israelites, and let's move this shit on. The fact that we're still sitting here having this discussion is proof positive that nobody is interested in this conflict ending.
Yeah. Well, I could go on, but I will save people from that, because I'm starting to sound like my father. I'm starting to sound like my father, who is this very bare bones type person, like Judge Janine when she went off, bomb them again,
keep
airstrikes.
bombing them again. My resolution: airstrikes.
Right.
Well, I didn't know she was running the Israeli military.
But I mean, it gets to the point where you're going, this is the only option we have anymore, because I don't want to continue, because I'm going to sound so
We've solved
cynical.
2 things in this, though. Make Ron DeSantis Speaker of the House, solve 2 problems, like kill 2 birds with 1 stone there, and just give the Palestinians Dubai. They get to be in a luxury city, they get all the workers and all the help that they could want, and make it the new Vegas. We have solved 2 major conflicts right now.
But I'd like to go visit Dubai, so...
Well, go before the Palestinians get there. You've got a few days.
Okay, well... Okay. Hamas can go fuck itself, that's all I can say.
Oh.